And your source for esports racing is live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Full Velocity Racing Network live tonight at the Dover Downs International Speedway. Great to have you all aboard tonight at our 2003 on a Tuesday night Hobo Racing Voiles Trucking Cup Series live in the living color this evening via Facebook Live and YouTube and Twitch TV. Hello, everybody. Phil the Cass here. Jack chewing on the controls. I believe Blake McCandless is going to be joining us here shortly. We're trying to iron him out, getting him into the server. I'll have to see if we can't work on this behind the scenes and get a hold of one of the likes over here at over the Hobo Racing League. But a great night indeed. We come to the round of 12 in the Hobo Racing Chase for 2019, and we got a round of 12 here we're going to set sail with this evening as the Cars of the Stars of Hobo Racing about to take to the racetrack here, the Monster Mile, for 140 laps around. And really good to have you here aboard this evening live via the Full Velocity Racing Network. Got to thank our great sponsors, of course, Voiles Trucking, allowing us to come over here and be the presenting sponsor here tonight live on the Full Velocity Racing Network. Also got to thank the likes of Hanover Record Service, our caution flag sponsor, iRacing iFlag, which is the official green flag sponsor of the Full Velocity Racing Network. Also going to thank CCM Custom Designs and Engraving, BladeNode.com, South Texas Speedway, TDR Racing League, Hard Motorsports, Trash Panda Graphics, Eichstadt Reps, and of course Brendan Spadafora over at Full Throttle to Jet. I believe Brendan in the field here this evening, but we're certainly missing him as we're going to take this thing trackside now before we get racing this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please rise to playing of our national anthem.
Drivers, to your cars.
Drivers, start your engines!
All right, back here live at the Dover Downs International Speedway, just trying to get everything sorted out. Get my partner in crime, Blake McCandless, in here with me on a Tuesday night. Unfortunately, he was a little bit late, missed the qualifying server, trying to get his way sorted up into the server. So I'm working here a little behind the scenes and trying to make that happen. But the Cars and Stars of Hobo Cup Series here live on the racetrack. Let's take you through our Voiles Trucking starting lineup on the pole tonight with an awesome time up there. 21.677, the 28 car of Keith McLean alongside the number 73 is Herman Reese. Row 2, the 029 of Keila Jules with the 113 of Caleb Lingle. Steve Grant rolls off 5th. He is in car number 11. The 77 car of Kevin Roy starts off 6th. Jason San Diego's number 22 rolls off 7th with Troy Donahue's 81 on the outside of row 4. Brian Voiles and Ricky Bumbalo make up row number 5 with Jeff Fugate and Wiley King in row number 6. 7th row with Eddie Rayleigh's 112. The 44 of Danny Rubino rolls off 14th. Ron Simpson rolls off 15th with the 25. Steve Rubino's number 21. He will roll off from position number 16. Rich Napick and Jeff Stakanis, they will start 17th and 18th with Duke Sorensen 19th aboard car 59 as the iRacing Guy flag, green flag in the air. Jordan McGregor rolls off 20th tonight aboard the 15 with Ralph Pauly, Gary Moore, and Harry Codian, Rob Keller, Randy Smith, Bob Gibson, Brett Carter, Pushrod Bob Becker, and Ricky Johnson rounding out the field here this evening. I don't believe the 193 of Ricky Johnson. Oh, there he is. I thought he'd fallen out of the server, but there we go. As it looks like green flag racing up to the racetrack. We try to click in and follow the field here at Dover Downs International Raceway. So scrambling behind the scenes, and I think we've got it all things worked out. Trying to get Blake in here with us. Is Keith McLean going to lead the field off of turn number 2 and down the back straight away under the tunnel over there, or under the bridge, you should say. McLean going to lead the field over Herman Reese. We already have a yellow flag on the speedway. Yellow, yellow, yellow tonight. First time. Hanover Record Service yellow flag on the racetrack. And we'll see if we can't find something that may have been a miss here to put us under our first Hanover Record Service caution flag of the night. And nope, I guess not. They call this a mulligan in sim racing, which I guess you can call the restart, as I guess they're going to pull it back, as I guess everybody was not set on the grid. So I guess we're going to try again and give this thing another 60 seconds so that it's kind of allow us to reset and regroup. And I guess we'll wave off what was, we thought, the start of the race, but well, sometimes that'll happen here at our 2003, the old sim, where you kind of an issue here with the start of a race. And unfortunately, that may screw up our lap ticker here tonight. So that is never a good thing. Try to get that worked out here the best we can, and apologize for that. Nothing we can do. We don't control the server. We just kind of call the action the best we can do, and I'm trying the best I can to get our partner in crime, Mr. Blake McCandless, in here this evening, as said he will miss the qualifying server, unfortunately, without the administrative duty passwords. We trying to get him in. I'm trying to feverishly work here behind the scenes to assist get him in. So I'm going to do the best we possibly can, getting rocking and rolling here tonight as I look over to the Facebook Live and YouTube chatter. And great to see all the ladies out there in full song per normal here on Facebook Live with YouTube. YouTube's the place to be always on Tuesday night. Going to say hey to Judy out there. I think Barbara's out there watching. Miss Ann's out there. Good to see Ann. Hope, Ann, you're feeling well. Did see you were in the hospital there. Danny let us know here a few weeks ago that we had a scare. Hope, Ann, you're doing well. Having all followed up there on the status of what's going on. So we're hoping Ann is doing well. Everybody out there is ready to rock and roll here live tonight in Dover. We reset the picture real quick here to try to get our ticker working great for you. So if you see a screen here for a second, we are definitely working on it and doing the best we can to give you all the normal look you would see. Try to update the lap counter, trying to get Blake here in the race server with us. A lot of stuff going on, I guess you could say, and trying to make things work out tonight here live in the Full Velocity Racing Network. And it's a weird, bizarre night as we start with Dover Downs series here. 140 laps around. We'll try again the pace car onto pit road, and we'll see if we can't put the iRacing I flag, green flag up in the air as we wait longer to roll. Green flag goes up in the air. We go racing. Keith McLean going to stop the loud pedal down, take the field over into turn number 1 and 2. KJ going to lead the field down here, second spot into 3 as we got one car up the hill already. Caleb Lingle's number 113 sliding up the hill. He'll fall back to the 5th spot as they are really juking and jiving here early. Tires a little bit cold, and see the car sliding around. Herman Reese lit up the racetrack, opened the door for the number 22 of Jason San Diego to sneak on by, as did the 11 of Steve Grant. They started up in the top 10, and now we got that number 11 car of a Speedland machine of Steve Grant. He's running in the third position. Jason San Diego running in fourth, and then Herman Reese going to round out our top five aboard car number 73. Get back to Caleb Lingle in the 113, Kevin Roy, Troy Donahue, Brian Voiles. Good to see the 68 Voiles trucking machine. Brian out there running in ninth, and Jeff Ugate, that bright green number 9, rounding out the top 10. 3 laps into the books as McLean continuing to lead. Him and KJ trying to drive away from this field early. Steve Grant comfortably running in that third spot as they're basically all single file around this very, very fast, high banked 1 mile concrete palace called Dover Downs International Speedway. Great to come out to the state of Delaware tonight. I'm hoping that my buddy Bobby Farrell may be out there watching. He has called Dover home for a long time. Not sure he'll check it at some point tonight, but hope he is doing well as to watch these guys out here at the Monster Mile, as it looks like KJ trying to run down Keith McLean, as he's done a pretty good job, run him down a couple of car lengths. Let's see if we can get back up there and see what is going on. And I guess we do have my partner, Mr. McCandless, has got his way into the race server. So, Blake, welcome aboard. 5 laps in. We had the work the Dickens out of this thing to get you in there, but glad to have you aboard there, bud.
Well, glad to be here, Phil, and it comes through courtesy of identity theft. Don't really recommend it, but Clifton Ashley, thank you for logging into the server early on, and hopefully you don't mind me using your name here to try and call the action with you here tonight, Phil. But we'll roll along lap 6 while we were talking there. KJ Kilojoules, he'll resume the lead as he makes a pass on Keith McLean, and just as we say that, the yellow flag displayed over the speedway.
Yes, he is, and we'll let Blake get settled in here as our second head of a record service caution flag of the night finds us on lap number 7. And yeah, want to give a shout out for sure to Clifton Ashley out there as we were doing all we can to get Blake in, and we kind of found that red name that come into the server and disconnected. It was Clifton, so well, thanks to him and not being here for the race, allowed us to get Blake in the server. So Clifton, if you're out there listening, bud, thanks for allowing Blake to sneak in there. Hopefully you weren't coming back. I don't think you were. You were kind of out of there a little while ago. So glad we got Blake here in the race server calling the action. But our second yellow flag of the night, and just trying to find what the heck happened, was Randy Smith's number 10 car involved, or was it the 17? I'm trying to look around here and maybe find what in the heck happened. I don't see too much. 95 going on. Wiley King's number 95. Got sent around that are not there. So 95 goes around. So you can go back and take a look. Jack's got it figured out for you. He'll show it off on a BladeNo.com instant replay, where you got to get over to BladeNo.com now. If you need simple web hosting or maybe in a VPS server, want to go big time with a dedicated server, check them out now. BladeNo.com. Simple web solutions powered by nerds. Give Vlad and Sam a look up over there as our first caution flag of the night. Finds Wiley King, kind of got stuck in the wall, went around, and don't think he really collected anybody in it too much. But definitely bright yellow flag on the speedway. And Blake, it's over a place where you're really going to take care of your equipment, especially the tires, but this place has a tendency. You get that thing out of control, you get that thing a little slick around, these walls can tear you up and make for just a miserable, miserable night.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned the walls, Phil. That's probably one of the most unique things about this Dover Speedway is the walls kind of collapse the racetrack, and when accidents like this do happen, like you see here with Wiley King, he gets a little bit out of shape. He hits the inside wall, but he's almost right back up on the racetrack. This track is so compact, especially on the front and back straightaway. Those walls don't give you a lot of room, and especially if there's one place where the straightaways are harder to drive than any other place, it's right here at Dover. You'll see cars getting loose as they exit turns 4 and turn 2, just because of how abrasive the concrete is here at the Dover Speedway. So Wiley King, a perfect example right there, that you can spin it on the back straightaway to the inside apron, but there's barely a car width down there on the apron. It can turn into big accidents here at Dover very quickly when everybody's piled up.
Oh, and I'll tell you what, man, the one thing I always kind of mention here when you come to Dover, you got that, that walkway, the bridge over there off the exit turn number 2. You got that little wall that comes out there on the inside of the corner. You get loose off it 2, you find that inside wall, it can knock you right back into traffic. Saw that happen a couple of times over the last week out here at Dover. That's a wall you do not want to get into, because not only is it going to destroy your race car, pretty good chance you're probably going to destroy somebody else's too, and that's probably unknowingly to the guy behind you.
No doubt about it. It's just, again, so compact. Not a whole lot of places to go here at Dover if you're trying to avoid an accident, especially on these restarts. We've seen, in the Cup Series a couple of years ago, and I've seen it a lot in my sim racing career too. If guys get out of shape on these restarts, which here at Dover, it's more difficult than you think to not spin the tires here. You're restarting. Much of the field is actually in the banking, so that can make it a little bit difficult. Long pace laps here because of how slow pit road is. Only 35 miles per hour is the pit road speed limit, so the pace car only going about 45 or 50. That allows these tires to cool down and can make some of these restarts really, really tough once you get here on the front straightaway. And as we mentioned, not a whole lot of room to go if things get a little bit out of shape.
No, and you can see already because we got some of the guys who started up front in this thing. Our pollster, Keith McLean, KJ Kilojoules, those guys joined a couple of, most of the field coming down to pit road. You get guys up front like Steve Grant, Jeff Fugate, Jeff Stakanis, those guys all elected to stay out. So one thing to pay attention to, cold tires here at Dover. You would normally think cold tires are a detriment, but a place like this concrete surface, Blake, cold tires sometimes not as slippery as I almost kind of assume. Am I right or wrong on that assessment? That's kind of how it's felt to me anyways.
I mean, once you get down in the corner, I think it's fine. It's just these initial restarts can be really tricky, and we'll see an example right here as a couple of guys at the front of this field stay out. Steve Grant, Fugate, Jeff Stakanis, Harry Cody, and some guys that elected not to come down pit road. We'll see how that works out for them as we move into the restart zone and take the iRacing, iFlag.com green flag.
Yep, green flag going back in the air. Steve Grant, Jeff Fugate, Jeff Stakatis, Harry Cody, and Jordan McGregor in the number 14. You're going to bring us back to the green flag. Single file restarts over here at Hobo. Usually presents a lot of green flag racing here early, especially once these guys get comfortable around the racetrack, get their setups all dialed in. We'll see what happened. And first car that slides up the racetrack is the number 61 of Ralph Pauly. He allows KJ's number 29 to sneak on by. So Kilojoules, a guy who I believe picked up a win last week as we begin a round of 12, now up into the top 6, and he is digging single file trains off the back straightaway.
Well, and you'll see it is hard to pass here at Dover unless you can get a really nice run off the corner. You're going to rely on that guy ahead of you. As you see KJ trying to make the move to the inside, there's just not a whole lot of room on corner exit when you're single wide, let alone when there's another car beside you. So you're going to have to be really picky and choosy. You can see right here, KJ diamonds the corner a little bit to try to get a run and try to make the move to the inside of him as he'll go to the inside of 3 and 4. This version of the track, still a little bit of grip up there on that high side, but looks like Kilojoules has a little bit too much of a run right there. He'll go right on by, and Keith McLean will try to pounce as well.
And you got to think that's probably something that these guys cognitively have already found out. There is grip up high. You can run up there, but with an open setup variety, you could also set these cars up to run and be really dominant down low and go back to the way we all kind of ran over years ago where it was kind of a bottom feeder, which you see right there as Steve Grant slides up the hill. Jeff Fugate goes on by, and the entire train. Are we at Dover? Are we at Super Speedway? Because the leader goes up the hill, and Steve Grant, by the time he gets back in line, he may drop all the way back to about 8th or 9th as Kilojoules gets really loose. That 29 way up out of the groove off of 4.
Well, and you see it right there, cold tires that haven't quite warmed up to this surface yet, and you get a little bit loose. The one nice thing about Dover, though, you have so much room, and you have a ton of banking to try and save a race car. You saw Kilojoules do it right there. He got loose, chased it up the racetrack, used all the banking that's available here at the Dover International Speedway to try to collect that car. He does it. You'll lose a lot of time, but there's a lot of give here. There's a lot of room for forgiveness when you try to save it.
We're off to turn number 4 there. Sorry about that. My son just walked in from work, was trying to greet him what was going on there. I haven't seen him all day, so we'll take a peek back here as I see Jordan McGregor. He's under Jeff Stakanis, which looks to be a race. Oh, that for position number 5. Here comes a 15. Jordan McGregor, a guy who has shown a lot of speed the first month we have got to know him. He grabs 5th now, Blake, as they head toward turn 1.
And they certainly do. And Phil, I fell out of the server, so I'll get back in. I'll let you carry it the rest of the way when I get right back in.
All right. Looks like Blake had a little bit of an issue right there, so we'll let Blake get sorted out. We'll kind of, figure out. It's been a weird night for us here getting on the air. Jack is the guy who's been on the ball all night long, as he normally is, but, we're going to cross our fingers. We don't hit the button. We don't fall out there tonight, so hopefully we don't jinx us right there. We all kind of had a little bit of semi-gremlin this evening, but the racing so far as we hit lap number 20 this time by Jeff Fugate finds his way up front with Harry Cody and Keith McLean, Jason San Diego, Jordan McGregor, your current top five, but the race is up there inside that top five position as the likes of, say, well, what happened to Jeff Stacanis? He just got around, it looks like, where is that at? He was up to Harry Cody, and I believe Stacanis back around Jordan McGregor, put the 31 car up in the top five. I saw them racing up there a little bit closer to the front. I believe the 29 of KJ in Kiel and the 22 of Jason Diego, rather. That's a good race for third down off into turn 3.
It certainly is. Is San Diego going to try and go high to make a pass? We haven't seen that too much tonight as San Diego will chase it up the racetrack. And it looks like he'll surrender that spot, loses some ground here on the back straightaway. It's really the first time some of these guys running about a lane off of that bottom groove. You see it once again as Kilojoules, he'll make the move up to second now as Fugate is falling back to third. But I have to give some of these guys some credit up here that decided to stay out and try to test it here on old tires. They haven't necessarily fallen all the way back through this field that much, as it looks like I'll have to deal with some more gremlins, but most of these guys that stayed up at the front, Fugate still running up in the top five, and a couple of these other guys that elected to stay out that last time, showing that track position may matter quite a bit tonight.
It may certainly will, and Jeff Fugate, one of those guys who stayed out, was the race leader. He is now dropped back to the third position as Keith McLean and Kilojoules, KJ, the PPR2 guys, they have broke their way up to the front too as we have a yellow flag on the racetrack, a yellow once again as we hit lap number 24. So Dover's a place you can start, chewing these cars up early, and I believe we have another one this time. I believe it's the exit of turn number 2. I believe I see the number 17. Well, Pushrod, Bob Becker, that may have went around over there. So we'll take a look with a BladeNote.com full velocity instant replay. See what in the heck happened to the 17. Looks like he may have drove it into the corner. Just a tad bit too deep. Got a little bit light. Tough to see that. I don't believe he had too much help or any help at all from the 17 as I'll take a look. No help. Selfie. Pull the selfie stick out. Pushrod wants a selfie. Pushrod, look up to the sky. Say, hey. You got the selfie stick tonight live on the Full Velocity Racing Network. It looks like, unfortunately, that it's going to put 17 behind the wall. Give Brett Carter's number 66 to wave around as the lucky dog. So it looks like that'll put him back to one lap down. 28 cars started, now 24 laps in the books. We're going to have 26 cars left on the racetrack, and 25 of them will be on the lead lap as we'll see what happens this time. We'll take a peek up there to the 13, the 29. And see if they elect to come back to pit road as we'll take a peek down there. They are on pit road as Blake's back with us here. As you've been having some issues there early. I'm glad we got you in the server. We're going to hope we can stay in there this time.
Well, let's hope for it, and we'll see what guys are willing to do after that last run. As we were mentioning just before I took a brief exit, some of these guys electing to stay out. We'll see if there's any two-tire calls, but it looks like everybody's running par for the course right now. A lot of guys taking 4 tires here early on, as we'll still have the same leader off of pit road that we had coming in. Kilojoules will lead them off of pit road, but a handful of guys, at least right now, staying on the racetrack. Don't know if they're going to come down pit road this next time by or not, but it looks like most of these guys not taking too many chances like you would assume at Dover, and they'll put on 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles as well as fill it up with Sunoco fuel.
Yeah, we do see a second wave beginning to start creeping down on pit road, and including Rob Keller's number 57. I see, was it the Duke Sorensen down there as I get back over? Where the heck did my camera go? I lost them all. Imagine that. Phil losing something up here on the network. You can't imagine it happening. But did see a group come down onto pit road, and trying to get back to kind of where I was and see who it was following along down there. Oh, no, I'm sinking. The ship is sinking. I've lost all my camera look. I know a second wave of cars came on pit road, Blake. I swear of it. I just can't find where they went. Bad button.
Well, there's a couple cars that came down, and it'll be, the 66 of Carter, Randy Smith that came on the pit road, the 59 of Sorensen, Harry Cody, and a couple of the guys that elected to come down on pit road this last time by. But there is one driver that is going to stay out on the racetrack as far as we know. He may pull it in here as we get the 1-to-go signal, but not sure quite what he's going to do yet. That Harley-Davidson Chevrolet of Rich Napick. still out there in the lead. We'll see what he's going to do out of 4, and actually he'll surrender it as he pulls onto the apron. He'll come by and pit along with another front runner that right there, the 57 of Keller will pull it onto pit road as well. Perhaps just trying to get those 5 bonus points for leading a lap, perhaps thinking fuel strategy as these guys continue to go forward here. No, it's a long way off, but Dover, when you think about fuel, can be a place where that comes into play because of how long these corners are, how much banking there is. This certainly attracted if fuel mileage were to come into play, it could be a factor.
Oh, absolutely right. And I'll tell you why it's a great idea, because I look over here where a round of 16 had, shrunk down to the round of 12 this past week there when you took care of me that night. And Rich Knappick is one of those 12 guys running for a championship. 5 points goes a long way in doing that. Rich coming in tonight, 9th in the standings, trails the points leader Caleb Lingle by 80 points. So that's a pretty good clip there. That's almost one complete race if Caleb was to finish last and you put the 6 car up to the win here this evening. So 5 points, they do go a long way, although that is a kind of a long run to hold there for Mr. Knappick, a Connecticut native himself. I guess he's probably the biggest Doug Kobe fan out there. He'll start at the rear of the field as we come right back to this restart. You have no idea, Blake, but I just made an enemy.
Well, Phil Lacasse making an enemy? What are you talking about? But
Rich Knappick, not a Doug Kobe fan. 5-time Whalen Modified Tour champion, a Connecticut guy, Doug Kobe. Rich is as well as I am. Not a Kobe fan, but I love giving him grief about it all the time as we go back to racing.
We'll let you guys kind of talk about that a little bit after the race. Sure, that'll be an interesting conversation. But nevertheless, you look out front, same story as before. KJ Kilojoules will work it down into turns 3 and 4. He resumes the lead over Keith McLean. Fugate, after making that strategy gamble that last run, he'll maintain the 3rd position, and now he's caught up on tires as well. So we'll see what that sun drop Dodge could do. Jeff Stakanis holding steady in 4th, as well as Jordan McGregor rounding out the top 5. Again, this newcomer who has kind of taken the Hobo Racing League by storm as of late. Has already visited Victory Lane and has already been up in our booth a couple of times early on in this season, Phil. He's having quite a run as he rounds out the top 5.
Yes, he does. That number 15, that's one of the guys, Blake, that rolled the dice on that most previous caution flag that stayed out there up in that group with Jeff Fugate in those group that time. But, he was able to stay out there. He started 22nd with that benefit of that one less pit stop, was able to get back in the same sequence as these guys. Now that number 15, Jordan McGregor, a guy who I said is really just kind of taking some notice over here at the Hobo Racing League, a newcomer to the league, only been around about a month. And as you said, has already picked up a win. He's picked up a win in a couple of the other series over here. A force to be reckoned with is Jordan McGregor in the number 15. He currently runs in the 5th spot, but up front, PPR2 has a stranglehold on it with Keith McLean trailing Kilojoules. They're trying to walk away from that bright green number 9 of Jeff Fugate, who runs 3rd. The race is now for the 4th spot. Here comes McGregor. He's going to look under San Diego, racing for 4th off of turn 2.
And it looks like he's going to make his way by for position number 4. Is McGregor able to make easy work of Jeff Stakanis? Looks like Stakanis knew that McGregor was faster, and he let him go by, and he'll see if he can't run him back down a little bit later. Again, we haven't really seen too long of a run here yet, and if there's one thing about Dover, this track can go pretty far on these runs. It's pretty deceiving because of how long the turns are, but you can go about 50 laps on fuel, so haven't really sniffed a long run just yet. So some of these guys that are running up in the top 5 perhaps thinking, hey, it's a long run, it's Dover, tires are important. Let's just kind of run her easy and then see if we can run these guys back down, because there's a lot of speed being carried through the corners here. These guys are running about anywhere from 155 to 160 in the corners, so a lot of throttle time means those tires are going to wear, and we'll see who's prepared for that and who has a long run set up tonight.
I'll tell you what, I had to clean my ears out for a second right there. Did you say 50 laps on fuel at Dover? You can make tires go that far?
That is correct.
Oh, my goodness. That's why a guy like you finishes top 5, and I came out here Saturday night and finished, 32nd out here at Dover. That's why I bring a guy like Blake along, to make me feel a whole lot smarter than I am, because 50 laps on fuel, 50 laps on tires, I couldn't make 12. And that's why I sit up here in the booth and do what I do and bring the experts like Blake alongside with me. As this race for the lead begin, kind of stable as a 28 of McLean rides behind KJ. Now a peek to the low side. What's that a race there for? That's a race for third. Fugate and McGregor. Here comes Jordan McGregor, the 15 car, going to find the third spot heading down to turn 1.
Well, and he's taking no prisoners, and he's not wasting a lot of time right now running pace with these leaders that are up here, and actually he's going to be able to make up all that precious ground because yellow flag on the speedway once again. So McGregor, as we were just talking about, getting the track position he needs, but unfortunately for somebody in the back of this field, probably going to get the raw end of that as we'll eventually search around, see what happened here. Another yellow flag as we're on lap 38 of 140 that'll make up this event.
Yeah, we're coming down to 100 laps to go here tonight in Dover, a place said you can chew up some race cars quick, and I believe this one just got a little bit loose on the number 40, but like Chevrolet, Gary Moore, and going around off the exit of turn number 4, he was running down low, and I think that may be another selfie over there. I don't think there was any help from that car. I don't think he really hit anything either. It's kind of spun around in the middle of traffic off that little, that slippery surface on the low side. Around goes the 40. Pull out the selfie stick. We'll hand out to Gary Moore and is a subject of a BladeNote.com full velocity instant replay. They all want TV time, Blake, and they're doing it with the selfie stick. I guess that's not a bad idea. Maybe they'll Snapchat it out, whatever the heck that thing is called you youngins use.
Oh, it's a couple of the things that some people my generation use. I'm not a big fan of a lot of that different social media. Don't have Snapchat, Instagram, or anything like that. But we'll look at this snapshot right here of Gary Morin, and this is a really interesting spot here at Dover. At this version of the racetrack, you can run right up against that apron, and there's speed to be found there, but if you barely clip that apron because of the banking difference here at Dover and just how close the grooves are, it's just very treacherous to get on that apron, and all you have to do is get your left front on it just a little bit, and I think that was the case with Gary Morin right there. He gets the left front barely on that apron, trying to find all the speed and cut the corner as much as he can. He spins it out, but does a good job. Just takes a 360 here on the front straightaway. Nobody else is involved. All he's got to do is kind of fix those flat spotted tires and he'll be ready and set to go. So no catastrophe here at Dover, but for Gary Morin, that shows you how treacherous this racetrack is, and we talked about how thin it is. There's not a lot of room on that apron, but if you clip it, good luck in trying to save the car.
Yeah, that spin off the inside lane of turn number 4 makes me think of 50 laps of a run here on tires and fuel. Imagine some green flag pit stops at Dover. Is there a tougher pit road to get on than it is here at Dover? That you don't have a whole lot of time. You come from like 155, 160 miles per hour down to about 35 on pit road, and not a whole lot of time to get there. Is Dover not the trickiest pit road around NASCAR to get onto? If not, it's got to be in the top 2 or 3.
I think it is the trickiest, and among probably Talladega is probably one of the trickier to get, and I know people kind of shake their heads and raise their hands at that, but it's just because you're carrying so much speed and it's flat. But that is one thing that is pretty similar here with Dover. It is completely flat on that apron. There's such a difference in the banking, and obviously the biggest thing here at Dover on pit road is that the speed limit is 35 miles per hour. So not only are you having to worry about adjusting to the banking, slowing it down, is that the speed is 35, and the commitment line here at Dover is so soon compared to a lot of other racetracks. So there's just not a whole lot of room to get down there. The apron's thin before you get to that grass. So I'd have to agree with you, Phil. Dover is by far the toughest pit road to get on under green flag conditions that we'll go under here this season.
I will tell you what, if we can make a whole run out there and make a whole round of green flag pit stops with no catastrophes, the drinks are on me tonight, courtesy of Full Velocity Racing Network. We'll put the full throttle with the Gent, credit card out there, and the drinks on the network. If we can make a full round of green flag run, a whole round of stops to keep this thing green, I'm going to put that out there tonight. They can do that. Drinks all the way around. We'll charge the Brendan. We'll definitely charge the Brendan for sure. His tab is huge. I know he's out there somewhere. I think I see Michelle just pop in, so Michelle, let Brendan know if we can do this tonight. A whole green flag run, pit stops galore. The drinks are on Mr. Spatafora tonight. I hope he's out there watching somewhere. Hey, what do you think, Blake? Can we make this happen? I got some sweet tea. I mean, I could use another one.
I think we can. And again, it's just all those factors taken into consideration. You really have to trust the guys behind you when you're pitting here, because you're going to have to ride that bottom part of the corner for just a little bit. You can't enter the apron on the back straightaway here because you're just going to lose so much time, and it's just not practical getting on the banking with how thin it is and how much of a change there is. So there's a whole lot of factors. And then the one thing we didn't talk about, Phil, and I think everybody remembers this image in their mind if they're a fan of NASCAR racing, is the image of Matt Kenseth into the barrels here at Dover. That's a part of it as well, but we'll talk about that later as we're under the green flag once again.
Yes, we are. Racing I flag, green flag returns. Randy Smith, the Hard Rock Cafe Pontiac, going to lead the field to green, but right away as he exits turn number 2, he surrenders way to the number 29. KJ Kilojewell's going to take the lead. Jordan McGregor going to follow suit, as is Keith McLean, number 28. Chef Hugate's number 9, and now Randy Smith's Pontiac dropping back to the 5th spot. That's not going to last long. Here comes Jeff Stakanis. Randy made the gamble on some older tires, and that shows it right there. That they're not as good sometimes as one would think. He's going to drop back to 7th, and he may even free fall even further as we work through turns 3 and 4.
Certainly is. There's just nowhere to get down. He's getting freight trained up there with those old tires. And again, this is a really risky move for Randy Smith as he falls back to 9th already, 2 laps after we've taken the green flag. Is we were just talking about around 50 laps is where that fuel window is, and we restarted with about 100 laps to go. So for many of these guys that pit, I think if we were to go for that green cycle, that may get some people paid out there that are watching this race on whatever platform you may be consuming it with. Most of these guys might be able to make it on one stop. I don't know if Randy Smith is going to have that luxury if we stay under green flag.
That'd be a long way to go. Almost full 100 laps there. One stop. You said they make it a 50. Not impossible, but I would say, improbable likely. As that number 10 car started from the lead position on the restart, he has dropped all the way back to about 17th, and there's a big group that has gone by him as we try to kind of catch up where the race leaders may be, as KJ is kind of started to drive away. The 15 of McGregor in tow, and Keith McLean's number 28, the guy who sat on the pole, Tesco Haviland machine. It's a top 3 little breakaway as they head off into turn 3.
And I think this is exactly what this front pack wants to see. There's a couple of guys still kind of mired back in the pack that I think have some speed tonight. But if you're these top 3, I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of action just yet. Still want to settle down, try to get the heat in your tires, find out who has a long-run car. But the biggest thing, we talk about it in pretty much any track you have a high rate of speed like you have here at Dover, here in NR 2003, you got to talk about draft. And right now, these top 3 completely broken away from the rest of the pack. Nobody else is going to catch up to their draft. And actually, yes, they are. The yellow flag is out once again, so that lead that they had is vanquished, and it looks like there's a ton of tire smoke here in turn 1 along the front straightaway, so perhaps a big accident here has brought out yet another yellow flag this evening.
We'll wait and see. I know Jack's going to find this thing before I do, but I saw tire smoke up ahead, and where you see tire smoke usually means somebody didn't hold on to the race car as we head off down turn number 1. I do see a car down there slow. I do see somebody smoking, and I believe it was the number 40 again, Gary Morin. I believe he may be the subject of another BladeNote.com instant replay. Once again off turn number 4, back end got really light, and this time not so lucky to not hit nothing or not collect anybody. Slid right back up the racetrack, and a few cars had nowhere to go. That looks like a car I would drive. Just tail happy off a 4, push the nose up into the wall, try to save it, wreck half the field. I'm sorry for Gary Moore. That stinks. Bud Light Chevrolet all tore up and looks like it'll make the hard left-hand turn right to the pit area. 2 quick wrecks there over the matter of 10 laps. I'm sure he's got to be frustrated. I know I would be.
Unfortunately for Morin, doing his best Phil Lacasse impression here on the front straightaway, but it shows you how tough it is here at Dover. Even down the straightaway, we were talking about it earlier on in the evening. He's going straight up into the restart zone here, nearly at the start-finish line. But again, these tires, especially after these restarts, will spin on these straightaways if you're not careful. And obviously, Morin had a very loose race car. It's why he lost control earlier in the event, and unfortunately he was battling it on the straightaway here, spins the tires, isn't able to collect it, and there's a couple guys that are unfortunately going to get the tail end of this. Obviously, Morin sustained some damage as well. Brian Voiles, he ran in there hard, got some damage. I think one of the Rubino brothers is in it as well. It was Danny. The 44 of Danny Rubino. He gets tagged in this as well, and again, shows you how tough it is here at Dover to control this thing, even on the straightaway. That's what this concrete does. It spits out these race cars.
Sure did. It did get Danny Rubino right there in the 44s. I know he's out there racing. I know Steve was in the server, but trying to whisper at him. I couldn't figure out why he wasn't communicating. He says, whatever reason, he's on the phone tonight. He's out there in the YouTube live chat. So, Steve, I was over here trying to get a hold of you, and in TeamSpeak, my button wasn't working for you. Now I understand why. He's on the phone. He's on out there racing, was in the race server, I believe, watching, and we'll say hey to Steve Rubino. Was trying to contact him, and now, Blake, with our issues before pre-race, I understand why now we couldn't get that solved faster, because Steve's out there watching us. Hey.
Hey, Steve, but don't worry, we got it all worked out. We had
right.
Clifton Ashley, again, identity theft, the best way to get into an NR server after qualifying.
It's not breaking the law, is it?
It's not the traditional way to do it, but hey, we're the Full Velocity Racing Network. We get things done no matter what it takes, I suppose. But so what? We're looking at lap 51 here, so about 90, right at 90 laps to go. Keller looks like he'll resume the lead, get those 5 bonus points. He'll eventually pull it down here to pit road, as I believe he will, and indeed he does. So most of these guys electing to come down pit road, get some tires, but how about it, Phil? Jordan McGregor has moved up to the second spot. He makes a pass on pit road of Keith McLean, so he may try to go up there and steal the lead because he was making his way through this field very well before he was able to catch those top 3 when that caution came out. So don't be surprised if that 15 starts to check out here from the rest of this field.
He's got a really good race car, Blake, and I can't believe I was expecting a big lap. He ran really good in practice here earlier. It was a top 5 car. Qualified 22nd. I'm not sure if he completely missed the qualifying setup or, missed his mark, washed up the racetrack. This is a place where qualifying always seems to be at a very big premium. You want to get a good pit road spot out there, but man, a guy who I thought was going to be no doubt a top 5 car from 22nd has found himself, as you said, up to that second position, has used a little bit of pit strategy to get his way up there. He gained all that track position back, and I believe he's going to be a force to reckon with before this thing is out as we get ready to restart, and I believe we're slowly approaching 52 of 140 of the book, so we're about 17, 18 laps short of halfway, but we'll get there eventually as we get ready to go back to racing. KJ, Jordan McGregor, Ricky Bumbalo up to the third spot in the 85, Keith McLean, and Ron Simpson, Ron on the 25. He will restart in the top 5 as the pace car is in as we work off to number 4 and just waiting for that green flag to come back down and waiting. It's a long run to that restart zone. And there we go. iRacing guy flag, green flag, but that was really late. He was on top of the line. We're playing games with that flag there tonight. Maybe he dropped the sweet tea. I know I about did.
Suppose that flagman just sleeping up there just a little bit, maybe had a couple beers before this one, but nevertheless, they'll rocket it down and make their laps around. Ricky Bumbalo, how about this? He's up in the third spot on that GasMonkey.com Chevrolet. He's trying to mix it up here and try to become part of this top 3 that broke away from the field last time, and it looks like he's at least able to keep pace right now. Keith McLean, though, right behind him, looking for a way around that race car, but Bumbalo holding strong here as they head into 3 and scratch that yellow flag out once again. And it looks like these cold tires starting to eat up these drivers as only a couple of laps went by. And I think somebody got loose in turns 1 and 2. And unfortunately, ate the raw end of that one. We'll show you guys the replay here in just a moment.
Yeah, and I believe it may have been Ron Simpson who did restart 5th at aboard car number 25 and kind of fallen back a little bit there to the back part of the top 10, and I believe that was the subject here. We're going to find that on BladeNo.com, full velocity instant replay down in the turn number 1 and 2, running the outside lane of the racetrack, and it looks like he may have got a little bit light and made some contact with, I believe that was Eddie Rayleigh in the 112 down there on the low side, trying to sneak on by. They kind of did a little bump off each other. Ron goes up on the outside wall, and could have been a whole lot worse than it was, but tough break for that number 25. It shows you those tires, Blake, if you don't have them, you sometimes really want them, and unfortunately with 25 car all tore up, the nose tore off, and I believe Ron's night may indeed be done over there in turn number 2.
Indeed it is. Pretty much anybody here, if you're wrecking mid-corner, you're carrying so much speed that it's really devastating when you hit the outside wall, and unfortunately Ron Simpson gets loose, has some contact, overcorrects, and then gets that nose right into the outside wall. So I have to imagine if it was sputtering along, that he was going to sustain some lethal damage on that 25 Chevrolet. It's too much. He pulls behind the wall. Gary Morin did as well after that wreck as he climbed up the hill here in turns 1 and 2. But that shows you the high rate of speed these guys have, and when you get in a wreck here at Dover, nowhere to go. And unfortunately, there's just too much speed to be found here at Dover, and when you hit the wall, it's just not going to be too kind to that race car, too much damage.
Yeah, a car all destroyed. Unfortunately, Ron Simpson's night going to be over. We're going to take a quick pause here live on the Full Velocity Racing Network. 56 laps in here. The Voiles Trucking Hobo Racing Cup Series run here on Tuesday nights. We'll get set, ready for a restart live on your source for esports racing. Go anywhere. We're going to take a drink and catch our breath and get ready to rock and roll for a second half of what is going to be a great race. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Brendan Spadafora, host of Full Throttle with the Gent and driver of the number 37 Two Guns Films Ford Mustang in the Hobo Racing League. You're watching Full Velocity Racing Network here on YouTube, your number one source for esports racing.
All right, getting ready to start for a restart here, working lap 58. So we're closing halfway here. We're approaching about a dozen laps or so getting away. KJ Kilojoule's going to lead us back to the restart. Jordan McGregor, Ricky Bumbleau, Keith McLean, Jeff Fugate in the top 5. We find Caleb Lingle back in 6th, Steve Grant 7th, Eddie Reilly 8th, Kevin Roy up in the 9th spot, and Ricky Johnson, the 193. He is broken to the top 10, is off turn number 4. The pace car is in, and now we make this long wait. I almost feel like I'm in Talladega waiting to get down to the restart zone. The last green flake dropped right at the start-finish line. Is now that one goes a little bit early. Green flag up in the air.
Yeah, that flagman up there playing some games up there, really making these drivers guess when they're going to finally put the throttle down. But nevertheless, KJ, he's able to do it well enough to escape turns 1 and 2 with the lead. But McGregor's still close on that tail. Now a change for 3rd spot. McLean is going to go by as Bumbleau surrenders the position. Oh, and he gets loose. Trouble here in turn 4. Bumbleau is in the outside retaining wall, slides back down the racetrack. Is anybody else going to tag him? It doesn't look like it. Close call and a great job by the rest of this field avoiding a Gas Monkey Chevrolet that was parked in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Everybody avoids them. Some slight damage on there, but once again, another caution flag as another driver gets loose here early on after a restart.
Yeah, and we're starting to see a pattern there now as that number 85 just walked it down to the corner, got really light, and I don't think Jeff Fugate had much of a chance to avoid the 85 where they are at corner entry there. So unfortunately, the Gas Monkey machine out there and and maybe out there with the baby oil now, whatever he may have, as Ricky Bumbleow's car makes a hard hit to the outside wall, front end all tore up, and that could have been a lot worse than what it was. He stayed parked there in the middle of the racetrack, and I think that was probably the right move because it's so hard to get turned around in a narrow place like Dover, the high rate of speed they're turning. The worst thing you want to do is, try to get turned around back in front of the field and get stuck and take out more drivers, because I know as sim racers, we hate when we do that, and sometimes it's completely unavoidable. Ricky did a good job locking that car down.
No doubt he did, and you have to really think about, there was another driver we want to mention there, Jason San Diego, as he was pointed out by our producer, Jack. He did a fantastic job avoiding some of the carnage there as well. But we've seen this a couple of times that a guy will be in that middle groove, he'll slide down and lose it, but there's always somebody below him to tag him. That's because there's just so much speed to be found. You can't lift a whole lot in these corners, and you're going so fast that somebody barely lifts and kind of starts to fishtail the car, and there's someone right there to meet them and kind of hit them in the door, just because you have to race so close on these restarts, and you really just can't lift. There's nowhere to go when you're carrying all that speed in the middle of the corner, how loose these guys run it. It's a lot harder than you think to just come to a dead stop in the middle of the corner. But luckily for Bumbleow that time, he really didn't hit the outside wall that hard. I don't think he sustained any major engine damage. He should be okay. But again, we'll see as we continue to run under yellow. These guys' tires only get colder here, so it only makes it more and more difficult as we continue to have more and more of these restarts.
It's about as cold right now. Think about that 95-degree day we had a couple of weeks, probably last week, and then wake up 3 days later and it's 35 degrees. That's how ice cold. I know I felt cold. I don't usually feel it, but that was a big cold change. That's what these tires are going through right now. And I went back and took a look at the Jason San Diego car, avoiding that wreck, and I'm not exactly sure how the heck he did it and kept that thing under him. He hit the brake, had that thing kicked sideways. You would have thought for a minute, Blake, that we put dirt down this racetrack. That thing was kicked out there, right rear stood in it, almost made contact with the wall. You could have put a credit card between him and Ricky. Jason San Diego, if we have the Good Hands Award there tonight, it goes to a 22.
Oh, no doubt about it. He fits right in the Full Velocity Racing Network, making moves like that, just kicking it out. It's usually what you see here on FERN just before we throw it back to NR 2003. A guy kick it out, still wheeling it, and you're exactly right, Phil. He did a fantastic job avoiding that, keeping that 22 Dodge out of harm's way. A great job for him, and really the rest of this field, Ricky Bumbleow was parked right at the exit of 4. That's a really difficult spot for these guys to try and just move out of the way with how thin it is here on exit, but they did a great job, and luckily Bumbleow and the rest of this field gets to walk away with no damage. We'll just see if we can do it again and try to get some green flag racing here.
Yeah, and I think what it's doing right now is, I know as race car drivers, we do this night after night when we can. I know when we get a run of yellows like this, when you start, you stop, you start, you stop, I think we all get a little bit tense in our race cars, knowing, guys, we got to calm down, try to get a good green flag run in. If your guy's running, say, let's go back to, we haven't talked about a guy like Herman Reese all night long who sits back there 14th, or, guys like Rich Knappick, Jeff Stakane is stuck in the back of the field. The guys that usually run up front here at Hobo, what are they thinking stuck back there in traffic, knowing that, hey, guys, let's settle down, let's log some laps here, because you can't win a race to run under yellow like we are.
No, you can't. The biggest thing this makes me worry about as a driver is when you're finally going to get that green flag run. When you get these consecutive yellows, a lot of times it can kind of shift the dynamic of the race to where when you guess correctly to pit right before that long green flag run, you're going to be in a great position to win. So if I'm one of those guys like Reese, who was fast in qualifying, has been fast all season, but is in the back of the pack, when can I hit it right on strategy to try and get back up to the front of this field?
Yeah, we go back to green flag racing here as we start lap number 64. KJ, Jordan McGregor, Keith McLean, Jeff Fugate, Caleb Lingo going to be our top 5 as we go back to it. I did hear a familiar voice just come back over my other ear. It was Steve Rubino, and if you're out there watching on YouTube, Steve, yes, I heard you, but my button is not working for you, and I guess it's because you're out on the East Coast. Usually out on the West Coast, he's back home in Hoboken, New Jersey, so welcome back to the East Coast, Steve, and I hit my button to talk to him, and I don't have any target there, Blake, because he changed coasts. You can't whisper when you change computers.
No, you can't. That's unfortunate, but one of the limitations about team speak, but it looks like for the most part, so far so good. A couple guys kicking slideways, a little bit loose there, but able to maintain control of their race cars as we make another lap after a restart. Right now, best battle on the track is just outside the top 10. It actually is for that 10th place running spot. It's Jason San Diego, who, as we just mentioned earlier, made a brilliant move to avoid any damage, but right now he's avoiding the front bumper of the Flag Rose Chevrolet of the 59 of Sorensen, trying to make something happen there as they go into turn one. Sorensen a little bit sideways, but still keeping pace with that 22 car.
Sure is. Good little race right back there. And as you said, that is position number 10 because it is all quiet inside the top 10 right now. They're all running basically single file. That is still the best race of the racetrack, is Duke Sorensen trying to make his waves underneath Jason San Diego. A battle of Dodge versus Chevrolet. We'll see if Duke take a look. He's going to go back to the low side and drag race through turns number 3 and 4. Can the 59 keep that traction down and that wall creeps out at you? It's really hard to stay in the throttle back on that low side.
It certainly is. It's very hard to pass unless you do it like that. Jason San Diego, I think, realizes that he had a slower race car, got a little bit loose as well, as he'll surrender and actually lose about 8 or 9 car lengths on the 59, so good job there by Sorensen being patient, but I think we saw how difficult it was if you are on the bottom to try and pass. If you don't get that run into the corner, it is incredibly difficult if that guy on the high side is going to hang on your door just because of how thin it is here on exit. You're going to have to lift if you're on the bottom side. So I think the best spot to defend your position is right up there in that second lane. Oh, and almost somebody is around on the back straightaway. It's the number 112 of Rayleigh who spins it to the inside. He's on the apron, though. Is the caution going to come out? I do not believe that it is out. Actually, it has been displayed. Once again, another car loose here on the back straightaway. A U.S. Army Chevrolet got a little bit squirrely out of 2, couldn't collect it. And he was running up near the front of this field. He was actually running in the 7th position when that happened, but Dover's quick to strike. He ran up in turns 1 and 2, tried to dime in the corner, and just lost the rear end of that race car.
Sure did, and that's a good driver right there with Eddie Rayleigh. It shows this place does not care who you are, what skill you have. U.S. Army Chevrolet getting a little bit light, turned around, and puts us back under the yellow flag. I've kind of lost the counter here, but I know we'll get this thing all figured out what's going on as we'll stack them back up. Eddie Rayleigh, of course, going to come to pit road, and we saw that battle between Sorensen and San Diego. We saw Jason's car lose all that ground, and I almost wonder he stayed out after that miraculous save he made there, Blake, coming through that turn number 4 that last time. And I wonder if that may have hurt his tires a little bit. It does not take much of this concrete to slide those things and damage them at all, and that probably affected the way that 22 handled.
Well, it affected the way everybody handles, because when you get those consecutive yellows, when you run only 2 or 3 laps, you have to question, is it really worth coming down pit road? You do get fresh tires, and there's no doubt about it here at Dover. Anytime you can get 4 fresh tires, you want to do it, but is it worth losing all that track position? And Jason San Diego was obviously up in the top 10. He probably would have lost about 10 spots taking 4 fresh tires there, so it's just not worth the time you would gain because of all the work you would have to do to make your way back up there. You pretty much even out on tires. But man, I have to say one thing about that Rayleigh spin. He spun it a little bit, cut across the nose of Ricky Johnson, and I'm telling you what, Phil, you could not fit a sheet of paper between him and that wall that is just outside of the exit of turn 2 that kind of cuts the apron off. He went up to the inch of that wall on the exit of pit road like you would if you were leaving under a green flag stop, and just about crushed that race car, and obviously would have been bad news for Sorensen and Kevin Roy, who was right behind him, because he would have been thrown back up onto the racetrack. He did a great job there at avoiding the very tippy end of that wall here on the back straightaway.
That wall takes no prisoners. I will tell you what, I hit it a few weeks ago just coming off of, you said, leaving pit road under just a routine pit stop. I guess I goosed the gas too soon, got a little bit squirrely, had to go down to the apron and catch the car, and I caught the end of that wall, and my night was completely just trashed. Back end of the car was junk. That wall, it sneaks up on you. I'm not sure how Eddie missed it, but Hey, that's why you live to tell another day, and that's what the 112 is going to do. Is I believe we're getting set to go back for a restart. I believe we're going to get one to go, I think, this time around, as I've come somehow lost myself back into the infield as I was back here checking on a little bit of stop. Lights are still on. I was back here in the back of the field with following along, so say Rich Napick back here, Ricky Bumbelow back here in the 85. I was kind of checking out where all the field was kind of sitting, and I did lose sight of where the pace car was, so I believe Rob Keller was scored the leader last time by maybe taking that lady lap, if you will, but now the 57 car going to roll off the speedway, going to find himself on pit road. So maybe Rob collecting those 5 bonus points for leading, but he'll come down, he'll get those 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. He will tail to the back of the field. That's going to hand the lead back over to KJ, the number 29, and we should be seeing a restart this time, as I think the lights have now gone out.
Indeed, they have, and the field will be under the control once again of Kilojoules. Now these guys are on fresher tires, so not having to worry about all the laps you've run under yellow flags on old sets of tires. Still going to get a little cool here, still going to have to figure things out and try and kind of fight through that looseness we've been seeing through these first couple of laps to really try to get going. Just past halfway, so I think a lot of these guys starting to see the clock wind down, especially here in a race round of 12. You got to think it's the playoffs, and these guys are really starting to get in a spot where they only throw out points at the end of these races, no stage racing here, so being patient early on and then trying to charge through to the end, I think is what a lot of these drivers have in mind. Guys like Herman Reese that were a part of things early, they're going to try to climb their way back up here in the second half of this one.
Absolutely right. Pace car going to make that left-hand turn down onto pit road and going to turn the field back into the number 29 of KJ. Jordan McGregor, Keith McLean, Jeff Fugate, Caleb Lingo going to be our top 5 as we work off to number 4 down the front straightaway, waiting for that flagger to throw that flag down, and he does. Green flag going to go back in the air, and we go racing down with turn number 1. KJ going to lead the field. Average speed of the race, Blake, just past halfway. 86.104. That's a slow pace here at Dover. Can definitely tell we've been slowed by some early yellow flags here. Been played for the first half. Let's see if we get that speed up. We got the field all stretched out now. We've kind of got the goosebumps out of us. What do you say? A good green flag run here to open up the second half of this race. I'm itching for one.
Well, let's hope for it that these guys that have been struggling with the handling of their race cars able to make some adjustments on pit road, but one car is around. Fugate, the Sundrop Dodge, is around in turns 1 and 2. And looks like he's not going to take anybody else with him for the moment, and everybody else is just going to scurry on by to the bottom side of the racetrack. And it looks like all damage avoided by the rest of this field, but we talk about it, all it takes is one, and it looks like Fugate was getting challenged for that 4th spot by Caleb Lingle, who's trying to march his way to the front. He got into the outside groove, and Phil, I think that's a theme that we're starting to see. These guys can run the bottom side of the racetrack pretty well if they get right next to that apron, but when these guys run the middle groove right after these restarts, it seems like that's the trouble spot where these guys really start to lose the back end of these race cars.
And that's peculiar here at Dover to see that happen, but it's not unforeseen. It's kind of happened here before, but man, definitely weird. That's Jeff Fugate going around. That's one of the top drivers that Hobo has to offer, that bright green number 9 and that Sundrop machine. Well, maybe change his luck. Maybe we need to take that thing from green, maybe turn it red. Maybe we need to put some cheer wine on that number 9. That may help him go around a little better. What do you think?
Somebody from Connecticut knowing what cheer wine is? Wow. Which, Sundrop's around this area too, and don't get me wrong, I love my Sundrop, but there's something just about a cold glass of cheer wine that you just almost can't beat. But I think that's kind of split down here in the South in North Carolina. You're kind of split between, at least for your local drinks, kind of your Sundrop crowd and your cheer wine crowd. I know, kind of moving here towards the mountains, towards Appalachia just a little bit, it seems like it's more of a Sundrop crowd the further west you go here in North Carolina.
I'll tell you what, I was out shopping a few weeks ago, and this new store that came into town here, went and checked it out, and they had this big exotic drink section, where you normally see all your pops, your colas, your juice, whatever you may find. And it had this really weird section of things we've never seen before. And what do I see? I see a bottle of cheer wine. And I say, you know what? Just for tribute to Blake, I've never had one of these. I'm going to try one. I got to say, pretty dang good. I'll have to go back there and buy a couple more. That was pretty neat to see one of those up here. I know that's something we don't see up here in the Northeast very much. So it was kind of cool to see a little bit of flavor of the South. And said, I've been out here, I know you're a fan. I got this big bottle of green leaf iced tea right here, the sweet tea. I know I've been hooked on this stuff for quite a while, and I gotta say, it takes me back to the South there, drinking some sweet tea. No, it's a fixture for you, Blake, every day, but I'm such a fan.
No, certainly you can't beat a good glass of sweet tea. But I have to ask you, Phil. I know there was a friend of mine came down from Pittsburgh when we did baseball together this summer. He said Cheerwine tasted similar to some drink that was up there in the Northeast. I can't remember what it was. Something red. I don't think it was Big Red or anything like that. But there was some type of red soda. He said it was. Or pop, I guess as you would call it, that was pretty similar to Cheerwine. I just can't quite remember the name of it. I don't know if that sparks anything for you, if there was a similar taste to it, but...
You'd have to go out there and look for this particular drink, whatever he's coming for. I'm thinking, all I can think is Red Hot. I don't think I've ever seen a Red Hot, so I'll have to go out there and take a look for that again.
That might have been
it. Compare the two. I think I've seen a Red Hot, just drink, so I'll have to take it. And Blake, we're normal up here. It's soda. We're not out there where in Todd's area. That's pop out there. Which first time I went out there, I was all confused. It's soda up here in the Northeast. We kind of had that right up here. So we sent you the Whalers. Well, we'll agree on that one too.
Oh man, that was sad, but especially how great the Whalers were. The name, the logo, the colors of the uniforms. Bring it back once a year though. The Hurricanes pay tribute. Don't know quite how. I can understand both sides of the coin where people from Hartford are either happy with that or not happy with that. I think there's a lot of mixed emotions there, but proud to have
no idea.
Oh yeah, proud to have them in Carolina though. Took I think a 6-3 win tonight over Florida, first in the league. But I think enough about hockey. We can get back to this race, but.
The way these cars are sliding around on cold tires, I almost think we're out there skating a nice little bit. So hockey must be appropriate. So that's why we bring that one in right there, having some fun out here. Phil Lacasse, Blake McCandless with the Full Velocity Racing Network. Jack chewing on the controls. I know we got to update that intro because we get Jack in there. We're going to get Blake's name in there as he's been a fixture out here on Tuesday night. So I don't know who Todd Stanton is. I only see that guy out here broadcasting about once a week nowadays. So I'm hoping he's out there doing well, wherever my partner in crime is. Hopefully we'll catch up with him soon, as we were talking about getting together this week, and I'm not sure that's going to happen for us, so we'll have to wait and see. But I do know we do see the Full Velocity Racing Network Chevrolet Corvette pace car make its way onto pit road, and in top five, it's been pretty consistent here for a little while. Kayla Jules, Jordan McGregor, Keith McLean, Caleb Langholm. Now a new name with Ricky Johnson's number 193, the Voiles trucking forward. Ricky J. up going to restart the top five as we go back to green.
And Ricky Johnson just slowly making his way through the field all night, has come all the way from the back, just biding his time, not racing too aggressively, but he finds himself in a great spot right here up in the top five here for the second half of this race, as well as Steve Grant. He's a guy that's been in the top 6 or 7 after gambling there earlier on, and he's found a way to hang on. He's trying to catch the draft of that top 5 at the moment, but doing a nice job as that number 11 Pontiac, as he's gotten some track position and been able to hold himself up in the 6th spot.
Man, how much do you miss the Pontiac out there racing? Love coming out here to Hobo and seeing Randy and Steve have those cars out there. I was a Pontiac fan for whatever reason. Just kind of loved the way they look. I was a Firebird guy. Loved it. Love to see that 11 car. Steve Grant running up there in the 6th spot. And you look right behind. How about the run for that number 77, the Coors Light Ford? A guy we don't give enough love over here at Hobo, but a guy who keeps turning in solid run after solid run. And that, of course, is Kevin Roy, the number 77, riding in position number 7 and holding off a couple of good ones with Jason San Diego and Duke Sorensen. That's a couple of guys that were in the chase here for the championship. How about that run for that Coors Light Ford? Kevin having another very solid but very quiet evening because we're 84 laps in.
Well, I think this is when you'll really start to see guys settle in. Some of those guys that have been running for points, that haven't been up front, they're finally starting to show the speed in their cars, turning up the aggressive notch just a little bit here as we get to the second half. There's real potential here as we restarted with about 60 to go here on this restart to try and get that long run. Probably going to see these guys pit at some point if we do get it. Do you split it in half? Do you go all the way and maybe top off at the end? It'll be something that's exciting to see, but I think as this field gets strung out, you're really going to start to see who has a strong car here tonight.
And what do you think these guys are thinking? Seeing some of the likes, we saw Bumble go around, we saw Fugate go around, guys that were straddling up to the top lane. How much do you think all these guys around are observing what's just kind of really been a weird condition for some really good cars that have just got loose in the high lane? And was that a product of cold tires, or what the heck is it? It's like an ice patch up there at some point. We're all single file now. We'll see if anybody goes up there. But what do you think these guys have observed from seeing these guys going around?
Well, I think they've observed, like you said, certain guys are going to want to run that bottom because maybe they want to stay out of that middle group. But also, I think they just need heat in their tires. They need to see a lot of these guys put a lot of time into their setups. They'll run 30, 40 lap runs, I'm sure, in preparation for Dover. So they just want to get to that point. They know what their cars are capable of if they can run that long. They just haven't gotten the opportunity yet tonight. But I think as we finally settle around, a couple of the guys starting to fiddle out the field just a little bit as a couple guys pull behind the wall, brings the odds down. I think you'll finally start to see these guys settle down, run their race, and finally see who has a car that is worth beating tonight.
And absolutely right. You think of a guy like Herman Reese, who was good in practice, had a decent qualifying run, but been staying, mostly outside the top 10 to the first 89, 90 laps of this thing. As we get down to the last 50 laps, a guy like him, if we get a long run, you may see a guy who's put some time into the setup that maybe not so good in the short run, but there could be some really good long run cars out there that we have no idea about yet.
Well, that's true as well. We haven't gotten the opportunity to see guys like Ricky obviously hanging off the pack right here with Caleb Lingle. They usually run identical setups, though, so if Lingle and Johnson both start to march up together, it'll be a product of that setup. Won't be a surprise to see, but right now they kind of got to push it. They're just a little bit too far back to try and sniff some draft off that top pack. That last time by Ricky Johnson, 1.1 seconds back over Keith McLean, who's running third in that kind of three-car breakaway at the front of the field. So him and Lingle not going to be passing each other right now. They're just trying to draft, stay together, see if they can't run those guys down. They kept pace with them that last lap by, but if they can just get a little bit of that draft off of that 28 Haviland Ford, you'll see Johnson and Lingle start to run these guys down.
I think you're absolutely right. And you're a guy who's been on the both ends of this thing. You've been in that three-car breakaway up front at a place like Dover. You've been in the likes of Ricky Johnson's place trying to hold onto that draft. What kind of discipline does it take in that race car to keep that thing underneath you, not to overrun it, and have that little panic, clock in the back of your head saying to yourself, I can't let those guys go away. Where does that play in the back of your head when you approach a race right now, if you're, say, Ricky Johnson out there running in fourth?
It's so hard, especially when you're starting to lose that draft, because you're thinking, oh, well, I'll hang back and save my tires, but if I hang back too much, I'll lose the draft and I won't be able to make it up no matter how much I save my tires. So Ricky right now keeping pace at 1.3 seconds without any draft, and now he's going to lose more time as Caleb Lingle will go by on the bottom side. Johnson doesn't want to put too much of a fight up for it. So if I'm a guy like Johnson right now, you just got past, you want to hang on to the Lingle draft right now and see if Lingle doesn't have something to try and go run down those leaders. I'd probably be more willing to risk running those tires off right now and try to split this last run in half than to try and eventually catch that lead pack. And then if it doesn't work out, there's just not a whole lot you can do from that point.
I don't think so. And I was riding along in Ricky's car, and I screamed out with him, tight, tight, tight. That car went way up the wall, like a plow on the front of that thing. Right front just laid completely over. Had to roll out of the gas, let the 113 go around. That's one of those things really hard to do, as well as keep that right front tire, because Dover's always a place we talk about the condition early on in the run where the tires are kind of cold. It's kind of a loose feel, but you put some laps into one of these setups, I don't care how loose you set them up. This place always has a tendency to get really, really on the tight side. What is it about Dover? Is these high-speed corners? Is it the way the track transitions out to the straightaways? I mean, what makes it so tough here to get one of these setups to turn? Because I always think Dover, 15 laps to a run, I feel like I'm driving a tank.
What really makes it tough is there's a lot of banking, so you're on the throttle a lot. You can go really fast, and I think when you'll really start to see it, a guy like Ricky Johnson, who may be struggling with a tight setup, you'll start to see it on corner exit time and time again, no matter what sim it is, iRacing, NR, NASCAR Heat. The one thing about Dover is that the wall on the exit of 2 and 4 will come out, bite you, and eat you up. And all it takes is one time. You can be running just fine, saving your stuff, and then you exit just a little bit too early, and then bam, you're into the outside wall. big right side damage, and it's happened to me. It's happened to everybody who's run out here at Dover. So that's the one thing that makes Dover so difficult is especially if you're tight, if you run out and hit that wall, that's a ton of damage because of how much speed you're carrying when you hit it.
Yep, guilty. Do it all the time at this place. I could never find that right line. As Jack says, Phil likes to knock the wall down. It really, I do. I make a habit out of that. I don't win these races. Blake does. I certainly don't. That's why I get a smart guy up here in the booth to make me sound a whole lot more intelligent than I am. But unfortunately, that really good green flag run we had is going to be slowed down because as we hit triple digits on the board, a yellow flag has greeted us back on the racetrack. That's kind of been a running theme here tonight. Yellow flag on the speedway. Slow the field back down, and we'll see if we can't find on a BladeNo.com full velocity instant replay what in the heck happened. I did see some smoke. It's been turn number 1 all night long. Has been the place where guys have really had a tough time. And car I see on the apron, maybe the number 61 of Ralph Pauly down there, and I see some damage to his car. So let's see if Jack can't come back here and see what happened to that U.S. Navy number 61 got up in the outside wall. Looks like off turn number 4 and had somebody underneath him, and just really nothing he could do, nothing the driver underneath that car could do. Who was that right there behind making contact? It was Harry Codian's number 13. There's nothing Harry could do. Ralph comes off the wall and just right across the right front of the 13, who's already been torn up enough. More damage for Harry Codian machine. Tough break for both guys.
Well, call it a broadcaster's curse. We were just talking about how difficult it is when you get tight and when you exit too soon here at Dover, and Ralph Pauly falls victim to that. He smacks the outside wall, and unfortunately he was being passed for position right there by Harry Codian. He hits the wall. Nothing Codian can do, and that's the other thing. When you're on the low side, you don't know that that's going to happen. You can't anticipate that somebody's going to hit the wall because to you they look like they're exiting normally. They're carrying the speed they normally do. That wall just literally jumps out at you, it feels like, when you're in the race car. Unfortunately, Pauly smacks it. Codian gets into him, and then that's probably the worst thing about Dover is when you wreck on these straightaways and you get turned like that, there's no room to save the car before you nose it in the inside wall. So probably a little bit of engine damage there for Pauly. Didn't get hit coming back up on the racetrack, but no doubt that 61 Dodge Challenger going to be a little bit slower now. Actually blew a right front tire, locking them down. So that tells you how much these guys are running their tires. He barely locked it down, and he's down a right front. So again, unfortunate, but that's the downside of being tight here at Dover. That wall is unforgiving.
Yes, it absolutely is. And we go back under the yellow flag here live on the Full Velocity Racing Network. 103 laps now on the board of a 140-lap main event. Hobo Racing Cup Series presented by Voiles Trucking. Great to be here. We will be here every Tuesday night the rest of this season, all the way through the Homestead Miami Speedway. In the third week of November, we will be here covering championship night for the balance of the season, and we're glad to be here live with the Full Velocity Racing Network. Because I'm looking at the field, looks like everybody has come on pit road. KJ and Keith McLean, Caleb Lingle. Looks like Rob Keller going to be that last car to pit on a sequence here. So I got to ask you now, if you're up there up front, if you're KJ, you're Keith McLean, is this the last time you've been on pit road with less than 40 laps to go now? Did we just maybe see the last pit stop these guys make all night, regardless of what happens from here?
Well, Phil, I think you just got to ask the rest of these drivers and ask, is there going to be another yellow tonight? It's going to be really tough. Let's say we run green to the end, get a caution with 10 laps to go. That's going to be where it really gets interesting. Do you want to keep the track position on 25 or so lap old tires, or do you want to risk it and kind of go for it all, knowing that many drivers have struggled on these restarts? You could be a guy running back in 15th this entire run, stay out here at the end, get a caution behind you, and all of a sudden there's a top 5 finish automatically. So that's going to be where it's really interesting. If we get a bunch of cautions here to the end, I think the guys stay out. But if we can get a 20 or 30 lap run or so, that's where it's going to be really interesting. You'll see a split decision from the field. If the leaders stay out, you'll likely see a lot of people come in, and if the leaders decide to pit, you'll probably have a couple people that gamble and want to take home a win. We have to remember these guys this year come into this new playoff format where if you win, you automatically advance. So for these playoff guys that may not be running up front. If you're running in 8th or 10th, why wouldn't you risk it and not have to worry about Talladega coming up next week and a couple of other tracks that we have coming up on the schedule and try to get that free pass into the round of 8? So, again, just a lot to be figured out, but it's really going to depend on how long of a run we get. But otherwise, they'll be able to make it on fuel from here to the end.
Absolutely. The fuel's not going to be a problem at all, but I think you're right. If we get a good little green flag run here, I think you're going to have no question at all. You're going to come down and get some tires. I don't care if you're first or 15th. You need that 4 fresh tires here at Dover. But we'll have to wait and see as we have the iRacing I flag, green flag. Back up in the air, 105 laps now going on the board. Keela Jules, Keith McLean, Caleb Lingle, Jordan McGregor, Ricky Johnson. They stay as our top 5, all single file with that restart formation down into Turner 3 and 4. Waiting to see who that first car on the line may be. As I'm back here with Steve Grant, to Kevin Roy, Duke Sorensen, everybody so far minding their P's and Q's. Even now Herman Reese in the top 10, but unfortunately, Blake, we got somebody around. We're going to throw the yellow back over the field, and I think that brings that whole question back in. I don't think we're coming back in yet. Wonder who went around.
Trying to find out who it was. I believe, once again, if you're a Pauly fan, that's going to be a tough stretch of laps right here. It looks like Pauly is involved in this one, and it just looked like it was a product of 2 guys getting loose, or actually 1 guy getting loose. It was Ricky Bumbleow. In turns 3 and 4, he rides up into that middle groove, catches it on the apron, and unfortunately travels back across the racetrack, and Ralph Pauly nowhere to go. Gets the unfortunate end of that one. Bumbleow's going to call it a night as he pulls his car behind the wall. He's going to retire from this event, finishing up in 23rd, but Pauly is in it once again. Damage on the Navy Dodge. And Phil, like you said, we're going to have to look forward. Was that enough of a run? Only a couple of laps that they just made it, but how many guys are going to be willing to come down on pit road? We'll see here. And it looks like you're right, Phil. Not too many takers. Probably have a couple of guys in the back half of this field who will come down pit road just out of principle. But the leaders all electing to stay out.
Out of principle. I like that one right there. If I'm back there, I want tires. I don't care how off cycle I get. I don't care if it's 2 or 3 laps. I want that fresher rubber on. I know we just had, 2 or 3 lap run there. I don't care. If I'm in the top 5 now, I may think a little different. But say if I'm a guy, even, like a Duke Sorensen, the 59, and I'm up in the top 10, no track position's kind of key. I'm coming down to put 4 fresh ones on because I'm going to bank we may get a little bit of a burst. About 10 or 12 laps, maybe another quick yellow. Then I think from there, that's where we're going to have to tell the story. If we get about a 10-lap run, I wonder how these guys up front are going to feel. I would almost panic at that rate.
Oh, no, you'd have to, because at that point there's going to be a split in strategies, and that'll just throw a bunch of chaos in this with all these guys that have struggled to try and keep with green flag racing. At that point, you really just are at the mercy of the rest of the field. I wouldn't be surprised. We only saw 2 cars come on pit road. It was Troy Donahue and Ralph Pauly. Really shocked that we only saw 2 cars. I would not be surprised, though, if when we get the 1 to go, you see probably the back 4 or 5 cars come down on pit road. And there's really one reason that you would do that is these guys running around under caution, their tires are cooling down. What's one way to beat that is to pit right at the 1 to go, come out of pit road. The tires are going to be warmer after just putting them on than running around after a bunch of caution laps. So if you're the back 4 or 5 guys, what do you have to lose? You get 2 laps fresher 2-3 laps or so fresher tires, but you also get a better jump and don't have to worry about spinning it out on the restart.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the different storylines we watch here over these closing 30 laps we're going to have here, about 31 as we sit right now. I think at least one more trip around that Full Velocity Racing Network Chevrolet Corvette pace car. Let's get set for a restart. I know I need a breath right here. I'm going to sit here and take a quick drink. I'm going to let Blake do so as well. We'll prepare for a restart live on the Full Velocity Racing Network. We'll come right back. We'll get it all packed up, and we'll see what these last 30 laps takes us. Don't go anywhere. Your source for esports racing. We will return. All right, Jack says it's time for a restart. We got to start talking again because, I'm just kind of enjoying the little bit of a breather here as we prepare for what is going to be a pretty crazy night tomorrow night. I can't wait for it. And we talked a lot about it last night, but looking forward to having a little spell away from the house tomorrow once again. But we get ready to rock and roll here on lap number 111. iRacing, iFlag, green flag back in the air. Let's see if this one's the burst to take us through to the finish. KJ Kilojoules, he'll lead the field off turn number 2.
He leads the field, and then close behind, we haven't really talked about it, Caleb Lingle has found his way up into the third spot. He made his way past McGregor over the sequence of these last couple of runs, and we know Lingle, a guy that generally runs up front the entire race, got mired back in the field early and has finally made his way up into the top 3 to try to challenge here with Kilojoules and Keith McLean. What's he going to be able to do? We'll see here in just a moment as he's trying to keep pace right now with this top pack. Ricky Johnson right behind him in 4th. This is where we were talking about, Phil, earlier. If you're Ricky, you got to step on the gas and try to make up the ground. Make sure you don't lose these guys out in front of you.
Oh, I agree. I think it's go time for that 93. You got to step on it now because you can't afford to risk losing that top 3 up there. If you have that race car underneath you, you got to use it all right now, and that's what Ricky Johnson's going to do, trying to keep pace with the top 3. Makes his way around Jordan McGregor to pick up that 4th spot, drop Jordan back to position number 5. You gotta say, a guy who, not sure how much of a background he has in the sim, Blake. He said he was away from it for a while, a guy we know nothing about. You got to be impressed by the speed the guy has shown, but the consistency. Dover is not a tough place to come out here as basically a rookie and run some laps as well as he's done. I am thoroughly impressed by number 15. It blows me away how a guy can take all his time off, come back, and be this good so fast.
Oh, no doubt about it. There's just some people, it's like riding a bike or, just water skiing. Once you do it, you just never forget, never lose that feel. And I think Jordan McGregor is just definitely one of those guys that he can take all that time off, but when he steps right on, it's, nothing's changed. You never forget it. Feels just like you stepped back in the race car just a week ago, and McGregor proving that now. He had some time to make up as well as Ricky Johnson, and he's doing a good job trying to maintain that gap, trying to catch those leaders. Johnson got a little tight off of 2 that last time by. I think that 193, so one thing he's struggling with is just he's a little tight right now and can't quite carry all that speed through the corners like some of these top guys can, but it's pretty much a 5-car breakaway. Haven't seen that much tonight. 5-car breakaway up at the top spot. Kilojoules, Keith McLean, Caleb Lingle, Ricky Johnson, and McGregor all chasing that 029.
They certainly are. They're kind of evenly spaced, about 3 or 4 car lengths apart. Almost looks like a Sunday night old spacing rule, if you will, up in that top 5. No, Blake will appreciate that one. As I look back here, you look through the gap, and we find Steve Grant back here in 6th, and I see the yellow over the field again. Yellow on the racetrack on lap number 118, and is that the run that was long enough? Have they goosed the tires enough now to maybe consider coming into the pits? And as we'll think about that for a minute, go back and show a BladeNo.com instant replay. The night for that number 77 of Kevin Roy up in the top 10 has just went completely south, and it went south, Blake, as we've seen all night long, in that middle to high lane off of turn number 3 and 4. Kevin Roy's back end, that car is absolutely just pounded.
And it's unfortunate for Kevin Roy. Had worked his way up through the field and really found his home right there around the 7th or 8th spot all night. Was just minding his own business, but it looks like Sorensen made a move to the inside, and that's really where it's come, is guys racing side by side. Roy's given him plenty of room, but there's just something about that middle groove that these guys just cannot find the grip. It's bad for Kevin Roy. He is going to go behind the wall. What was a top 10 finish is going to turn into a 22nd place finish for that Coors Light Ford, unfortunately. Great job there by Jeff Fugate. He avoids carnage there and is able to make a nice evasive maneuver around the spinning 77 car to keep his night going. But you're exactly right. But, Phil, this is what we were talking about earlier. What is the pit strategy going to be for these guys? Well, we're answering it right now. Everybody is on pit road.
Everybody. Every last one of them has decided to come to pit road, and I'm telling you, that's the way to do it. They're all down there to get 4 tires on. You got to do it right now, because I'm going to tell you what, even that 6 or 7 lap run we just had, I bet you probably have lost about a half a second of grip by then. So I think their kind of bed was kind of made. They all had to come down and Let's see who's going to win this race off of pit road. Oh, is that Jeff Stakanis? Did we possibly have a 2-tire pit stop to put the 31 car, the first car up pit road? I'm going to go back and monitor that one because that was a 31 car. He wins that race off. Got to be sneaky.
I believe that's the call we'll see. I'll go back and confirm it on the replay. And yes, I love it. Just right side tires for Jeff Stakanis. And again, I don't know why you wouldn't do it. It's a fantastic call. He's the only one to do it. He's been running in the top 10, right around that top 10 range all night. But I love this call from Stakanis. We saw guys who stayed out after a couple laps of a run earlier in the race, guys like Steve Grant and Fugate. And for the most part, they were able to keep up. They kept their track position. This is probably not a race-winning move, but this is a move that will definitely surge Stakanis forward a couple of spots. Definitely going to finish better than 10th, I think, if he can hold on to it. And you never know. A couple guys behind him might struggle and bring out some yellow. So probably not a race-winning move, but definitely one that is going to, in the end, gain him some more spots. So I love the call. I'm surprised more people didn't do it, Phil.
I love it. I think it's brilliant. I love the Jeff Stakanis number 31 move. 2 tires. He was going to run back there about 10th or 12th anyways. What a better way here late in the going, under 20 laps to go. Come down there, strap 2 right sides on, and just go out there and keep digging. They said, may not be the race-winning move, but I don't think that's an impossible, thought right now, because we have seen some quick start and stops. If he can hold off these guys, it may almost cycle back around. You put 2 restarts on these tires, it may equal itself back up front. So we'll see how that 31 plays out, but I think I agree. What a ballsy move. I love it. I don't know if he just stole the race, but I think we'll have to see. I think he at least cemented himself a better than 10th place finish.
Well, again, and I said if he's able to hang on to it, because that's the big question, right? Those left side tires going to be cooled down. So it is going to be a struggle. He's going to have to find a way to handle that race car, knowing that there's fresh tires and faster cars that have right behind him that have had a lot of speed all night. So he's going to have to worry about that. But as long as he can just hold his ground and maintain his speed there in the middle groove, again, like you said, that middle groove has been trouble all night. That's probably where he's going to have to be with Kilojoules, Keith McLean, Lingle, more than likely finding their way around him at some point. So if Stakanis can just maintain and keep control of his car, this is a great move. But that's a big if.
Big if as the lights go out around the speedway, and we'll see if Jeff Stakanis may have just really launched himself into the stratosphere here. That could be a race-winning move. More than likely not, but I think a ballsy maneuver there for the 31 as I see the pace car making a left-hand turn on pit road. Let's put this thing back under racing, making this a long little crawl, a 40-mile-per-hour pace off turn number 4. Jeff Stakanis going to lead the field back to green with Kilojoules. Keith McLean, Caleb Lingle, Jordan McGregor going to be our top 5. Green flag goes back in the air. Let's see if Jeff can hold on. He'll lead the field down to the turn 1.
A good restart there by the 31. However, it's going to be right here mid-corner. You see Kilojoules. He gets a little bit sideways as Stakanis pushes up the racetrack. Kilojoules going to be there as they enter turns 3. This is where Stakanis is going to have to hang on here with low grip here in the middle groove. He'll lose a couple of spots, more than I thought he would. He's all the way back to 5th at the stripe, so perhaps not as great of a move as we initially thought. Stakanis starting to fall back through the field, but don't lose an eye on those top 2. They're neck and neck here down the back straightaway.
They really is. And Blake, come back here and join me in 20th with that wrong call. I've done that a few times, and you're not a guy who usually misses those calls. We can go finish at the back for once, but, let's see who finishes here up front. KJ and Keith McLean, those 2 guys have really dominated this show here this evening. Caleb Lingle, that 113, has put himself in the 3rd spot. That's another guy who has won a race here in this chase, looking to cement himself a good night. And I look back here, and Jeff Stakanis, where he dropped to about 6th or 7th. I know Steve Grant was there. How about the run for Duke Sorensen? He's had a really good rebound after a couple of his struggle weeks. That 59 car, that Flaggrove Chevrolet, Duke up there riding in position number, 7 off into turn 1.
Certainly is. These guys sending it as far as they can, as hard as they can here at the end. Again, a lot of these guys probably made some adjustments to their car and make it more of a short run car, perhaps some air adjustments, add some tape to the grill, as again, we only have 14 laps to go. Not going to be looking for a long run here And it looks like Kilojoule's able to maintain that lead. McLean gets a little bit tight off of 2, and KJ is going to take advantage of it. He's going to roll into 3 or 4 with about a 2 or 3 car length lead, and is actually expanding on that right now off of turn 4.
It really stuck in the racetrack well, and it really launched off the corner. Almost reminded me of like being up on the cushion. That 29 just kind of squatted down and just kind of took off about that 3 or 4 car lengths from Keith, as you said. But look at the draft that 28 gets. He runs right back down to the back bumper, and before we know it, that was a 113 of Caleb Lingle. He posted the inside of Keith McLean. 28 car up the racetrack. He loses 1, now 2 spots as Jordan McGregor goes by what I thought may be a race-winning car of a 28. He'll slip back to 4th now as we exit over turn number 2.
Well, we see these guys have made those adjustments, trying to move it for the short run. A battle here for the 2nd spot between Caleb Lingle and Jordan McGregor, the newcomer and the old-timer who has really put it to him this season. They're now side by side as McGregor gets a nose under him. Lingle's going to let him have it. McGregor rockets it to the bottom of 1 and 2. He's going to eye that 029 who has now pulled up by over 1 second. Actually make that 9/10 of a second over the rest of this field. Lingle slips up the racetrack right behind him. That's going to allow McLean and Johnson to move by. So some of these guys maybe ran it too hard, starting to lose the handle of that car, moves Lingle back to 5th.
I will tell you what, Blake, we always say apron bad. Caleb just clipped it with the left front tire. That's what sent him up the racetrack. That really what cost him those spots there to Ricky Johnson and Keith McLean going back around. So put the number 113 Caleb Lingle now back to the 5th spot. But how about that 15 of Jordan McGregor? The interval is kind of stabilized about 1 second, and by the naked eye, it looks like the 15 maybe a tad bit quicker than KJ, if you can believe it. Let's see. This time by grew up to just over 1 second, so gained a 10th, but that 15 car got a lot of speed. He's just got one of the best to run down. If I'm going to put a guy in a short list, if I had to put like a Mount Rushmore together of the current NASCAR 2003 scene, one of the best open setup drivers out there, KJ had certainly got to be in that top 3 or 4. A guy like him leading right now by well over 1 second, you got to like where he's sitting. We've seen him do this before, and if we stay green, I think he's just going to continue to run away.
Oh, no doubt about it, Phil. He pulled up about 2/10 away from Jordan McGregor that last time by. We'll see it is now. About 2/10 again, 0.17 seconds is what he pulled away from Jordan McGregor. So that 0.29 not lifting an inch. The only question is, are we going to get another yellow flag? That's probably where, if you're Kilojoules right now, you look at the lead you have, you probably want to take it easy. Not sure if those guys are going to be able to run you down. You just want to save your tires in case the yellow comes out and we have a restart that would maybe take a lap or so. But again, I don't think he's listening to me. Phil pulled up by another 10th. There we have it. The caution flag is out here on lap 135, and they're going to race their way back. Not sure if that's the end of this race. We may get one to go at the end, but man, does this change everything. That's not what that 029 Camaro wanted to see.
Not at all in any circumstance did KJ want to see that yellow flag. His stuff broke out. It looks like down the front straightaway to put us on a yellow flag once again as KJ wins the race back to the line. 136 on the board, and maybe a one-lap shootout. Maybe at our best rate. We'll have to wait and see, but let's see if we can't get a BladeNo.com full velocity instant replay. See what the heck happened here. It was off of turn number 4. Oh, somebody got wicked loose. Looked like Randy Smith's 10 car pounded the outside wall, and it was tough to tell at the Hard Rock Cafe. Pontiac has some help. It looks like Harry Codian may have got a little touch bit loose in front, and it just kind of made him maybe drag the brake a little bit. Got the back end loose of a 10 car and just set up a wild ride from there. So unfortunately, Randy Smith, a guy running for a championship, not the way he wants to finish off his night there. 10 car going to have to go to the back of the field, and it's just a checkup maneuver. We've seen that ordeal happen at Dover before. I'm not sure what we can really blame Harry Cody in. The back end of that car really kind of tore up, got a little bit light. Unfortunately, Randy Smith was the wrong place, wrong time.
No doubt about that, Phil. I think that's going to set us up. We don't have anybody that is a lap down right now. So typically what you would see is a couple laps, and then you would add one extra lap if somebody were a lap down here in our 2003. That's how the cautions have worked. That's how they've always worked. But nobody's a lap down right now. So this is just going to be really interesting to see, I believe. And again, this is just a guess, so don't hold me to it. I think we're going to have a one-lap restart. I don't think we've seen the end of this race just yet. However, could be wrong about that. We're just going to have to see here and ride along with these guys and see if the lights go out on that pace car. I think we'll get a one-lap shootout, but again, I'm just not sure.
I don't know. I'm going to wait and see on that one, and I really think we're going to, as you said, nobody down a lap. It's been about consistently 3 laps under yellow, so I think we're setting ourselves up for a little bit of a shootout. Now I wonder where. Does anybody, I can't imagine now you're going to lose track position up front. Where would you have to be running right now to consider coming in and putting tires on that thing and making a big bonsai run for a lap or maybe 2 at most?
I think if you're guys that are in the championship hunt and you're running about, let's say anywhere from 15th to 20th, I think it's worth coming down because that lap is so crucial when you're about 15 laps on older tires. That makes a big difference here. If you can get a good restart and find a way to make the high side work, you can make up 4 or 5, maybe even 6 spots. That's not even to mention if we get a yellow flag at the end of this thing, you may be able to make up more spots as well. I think if you're one of those guys, you don't have a whole lot to lose. You could perhaps drag a couple of people in behind you, but it looks like these guys aren't listening to me. Nobody is on pit road except for Randy Smith right now, who had to call the tow truck. I believe the engine has gone amiss on that number 10 car, so tough for a playoff driver to face that type of luck. But right now, nobody even daring to touch pit road because, of course, if we do go green, it's only going to be for a lap. I think we're about to find out right here. We'll have to get the 1 to go signal with the lights going out on the pace car this time to be able to go green. And what's the official ruling going to be? We're going to get a lap.
Man, I was really questioning that for a minute with Randy Smith on pit road going 2 laps down. I thought the game may give us another lap there to wait, but hey, what not? Let's take a 1-lap shootout to settle this thing. Keila Jules, Jordan McGregor, Keith McLean, Ricky Johnson, Caleb Lingle. That is our top 5. Is it going to stay the top 5? I got to imagine somebody is going to take a shot here and try to take a win late here in the playoffs, the first race of the round of 12, the Hobo Racing Cup Chase. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to sort itself out. I know if I'm KJ right now, I got to hit this restart. I can't spin the tires. Oh, God, Blake, we've all been here before. I know I've spun tires. I'm sure you have before. How nervous to think you're sitting there in that 29 car right now.
Well, you gotta be very nervous because, again, an automatic trip is on the line, not for Jordan McGregor, but you have to think about Keith McLean. He's a guy you don't want to give a free pass into the round of 8, and we'll see if Kilojoules is able to put aside that nervousness and get a good restart here. Again, this long drive down the straightaway. We'll see what happens. Green flag's in the air. A couple cars out of shape here on the front straightaway, but Kilojoules makes up a couple car lengths into one.
Sure does. Expands it out to about 2 or 3 car lengths off the exit of turn number 2. Is that going to be enough? As the yellow is on the speedway, we're racing back to the flag from here into turn number 3. KJ going to lead as Jordan McGregor have one more run to make off of turn number 3 and 4. It's going to come up short. Kilojoules going to win the Dover 140 tonight here at Hobo Racing. Jordan McGregor going to grab 2nd. Keith McLean will finish up 3rd. Ricky Johnson 4th. Caleb Lingle will score a top 5 finish. Steve Grant, Jeff Fugate, Duke Sorensen, Jeff Stakanis, Harry Cody. Yeah, that whole torn-up car. He brings home a top 10. 11th to Rich Napick. Danny Rubino will grab 12th. Eddie Rayleigh 13th. Rob Keller 14th. And Ralph Pauly will round out our top 15 with Bob Gibson going to finish up 16th. Brett Carter 17th. Troy Donahue 18th. Herman Reese with issues on that last restart. 73 car will roll off and finish 19th. Jason San Diego, another championship contender, Blake. He finishes up 20th. Cars out of the race include Randy Smith, Kevin Roy, Ricky Bumbelow, Brian Voiles, Ron Simpson, Gary Morin, Pushrod, and Wiley King. So at the end of the day, when all the smoke clears, Kilojoules picks up yet another win. Believe this is win number 5 here this season. And what better way to do so? In the round of 12, he will race off into the round of 8. God, that's going to be a sigh of relief.
That's got to be a sigh of relief for him. And one name you mentioned right there, Herman Reese. Tough luck for him. Gets put back into the 19th spot here at the end of this race. Not happy about that. He's already exited the server. A really tough break for him. Qualified up front, but unfortunately was not a factor up front for most of this night. And for him, it's going to be a 19th place finish. Not what you wanted to see for that 73 Cadillac team.
Not at all. That is not a way you want to leave Dover and start the round at 12. And we know Herman's a really good race car driver, but he is going to have some work to do, and we'll hopefully catch up with him here in the next couple of days. But we're going to move our way toward the BladeNode.com Full Velocity post-race show, where we'll talk to all our top three, including Keith McLean's number 28, the 15 of Jordan McGregor, and the 20 or the winner, or 28 car, Keith McLean, Jordan McGregor, KJ Kilojoules, going to be tonight's race winner. Believe they are all screened out. I'm going to throw this thing to my broadcast partner, Mr. McCandless. Blake, take it away. Catch up with our third place finisher, Keith McLean.
All right, let's get him moved up here. There we go. Well, Keith, you found a way to finish third tonight, but it was a pretty wild race. Kind of talk about what you saw out there on the track, because up here in the booth, it was pretty interesting. Keith, you there, buddy? Phil, I don't think we got Keith. Anybody? Hello? All right, I think we're going to do that, folks. Keith McLean. Oh, there he is. All right, Keith, there you go. Okay, so I guess I'll kind of re-ask you that question there. Sorry if we caught you at a wrong time, just kind of pulled you up here. But it was a wild race. Kind of describe what you saw from the windshield of your race car.
A shit track. But, no. The track, this version of this track is not the best version. It caused a lot of people to wreck and get loose. Long runs would have been good, but we got a few, but it's just a hard track.
No doubt about it. It seemed like anytime somebody kind of left that bottom groove, anytime they got up to right at the edge of that rubber that's laid down on the racetrack, it was really squirrely, really hard to handle. Did you kind of feel that? Is that kind of align with what you thought about it?
Yeah, turn 3, I think that's where most of the people was spinning up there. I found it's like a dead spot up there. It's like a dead spot up there, and you just go up there and you just lose all traction. But anyway, it was a good win for KJ. PPR2 got another win. Pretty clean race. I didn't really have anything for him.
No doubt about it. But obviously you come in here a playoff contender. Kind of talk about you want to come out of here with a good finish. You get that done. Talk about how this start for the round of 12 kind of sets you up for the next two races, especially with Talladega on the horizon.
Oh, I know. I'm dreading Talladega. It's like I never finish. I always get caught up in somebody's some mess. You know how Talladega is. But yeah, I've had a really poor second half of the season, and I feel like I got a win today, just finishing third. So I'm pretty happy, and it sets me up for the next round pretty decent. As long as I can make it out of Talladega, all right.
I think we could all agree with that, Keith. You've been a fixture up here in the booth pretty often. We'll throw it to you one more time. If you've forgotten anybody over the last several weeks that we've gotten to talk to you up here, we'll throw it to you one more time. Or if you want to give anybody else a shout out again, the mic's all yours.
I'd just like to thank Voiles Trucking for sponsoring these races, and Steve and Dan Rubino for running a great league. And that's about it. And y'all did a pretty good job there. Phil was doing the little dance like I was the last 20.
We were all doing it with you, Keith. But congratulations, a great run for you and your team. And don't go too far. I think we'll be talking to each other a couple more times the next few weeks.
Appreciate it, guys.
And that's your.
All right, Blake, sorry about that. I was going to give you a quick breather there. Great interview right there with Keith McLean. I'll let you switch gears now, and I believe you're going to catch up with tonight's second-place finisher. That's, of course, the 15-car Jordan McGregor, who had a very good, solid piece, but comes up one spot short, but he's going to be happy with that effort.
No doubt about it, Jordan. We saw you come up all the way through this field, and looks like you had a run for those leaders, especially Kilojoules up there, but just ran out of time. Didn't quite get the long run that I think you needed to be able to complete it and get the win here tonight. But kind of talk about this race. It seemed like a lot of drivers struggled early on, and it was just really treacherous out there.
Yeah, no, I put myself behind the 8 ball right from the get-go, reckoning qualifying. So I had to work my way through the field. Looked out on a caution to kind of get some track position. But you're right, it really needed that long run. Didn't quite get it. We got to the point where we could get up to KJ, but just didn't really have any opportunities to pass him. Like you said, the long runs is really where I was stronger, and didn't get that tonight. But it was, it's a good finish, good crazy finish. I thought we had him on the start, and then I started to spin my tires. But good win to him. Just a good race. He dominated the whole thing.
Certainly did, but again, it seems like every time that we come out here, we talked about it the last time you were up here, newcomer to the league, but it doesn't seem like you're taking too much time to get acclimated to things. Running up in the top part of this field every single week. What do you think it is that just makes it natural for you to come out here, open setup league, and just really show these guys that you're a great driver and you're going to be a fixture in these things, especially if you run the full season next year?
For me, it's mainly just hitting right on the setup a couple times. I raced for a lot of years, all the way back to NASCAR too, and took a big long break for about 10 years before coming back here. And just having a good group of guys here, being able to go out there and practice all week with the server being open, and making some friends here. Just a great place to race. Still trying to be respectful of these guys that are in the chase. You don't want to ruin it for anybody, but at the same time, hey, we're here to win races, and that's what we're trying to do.
Can't fault you for that. And obviously a great group over here. Still late into the season, roughly 30 guys coming out on a Tuesday night and a 16-year-old game, open setup. There's no doubt there's really no... what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say there's a pretty good reason there's a long waiting list to get over here at the Hobo Racing League. But I'll go ahead and hand the mic over to you one more time. Seems like we've done this a couple of times over the last few weeks. But give anybody a shout out there over the FERN airwaves.
Yeah, hey, just thank you, Blake and Phil, for the broadcast. Appreciate Steve for putting this series on. Congratulations again to KJ. Good run to Keith and Caleb and Ricky. Hey, good group of guys that are battling for a win. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see y'all next week.
Well, we'll hopefully see you next week as well, Jordan McGregor. Talladega may be a tough one, but wouldn't be surprised to see you hop up here with us once again. It's been a pretty common practice for Jordan this season. But we'll turn it over to Phil Lacasse. I believe he's caught up with our race winner, a very happy driver who is on his way to the round of 8, KJ Kilojoules.
Yeah, absolutely. And a guy I usually get at least some communication with here through the in-game chat. At one point, it was silent all night long, and that is when I knew this guy had a good piece here tonight. Had to hold on, KJ. Terrific run for you. Well, it looked like a race you really had to really bide your time in. Track conditions were kind of weird out there. These start, restops, the tires get cold. Tell us about your race car for the Corso night there, because it was pretty consistent. You were fast all night long, but man, how did all these start and stops really affect your setup?
Mainly the heat cycles. You get a little bit of wear on the tires, and you do a restart. It creates more tire spin. So that's almost what cost me the race at the end. I spun the tires really bad on that last restart. Yeah, Phil, I usually PM you or something during the race, but I was kind of focused tonight because I knew I had a fast car. It practiced really good. I even qualified good. I never qualified up front, so I knew when I had a top 3 starting spot, I had a good car.
That's exactly what I said, too. He qualified good. I haven't heard from him. I know he's got something they're going to be reckoning with here tonight. And talk about that last pit stop there before that restart, bud. You come in, Stacanis beat you guys out with 2 tires. Obviously, that didn't work out well. Was there any adjustment you come in on pit road on that stop, knowing you had, a 20-lap burst there to get to the finish where you put tape on that thing, air pressure adjustment, or was it the same base you stayed with all night and no adjustments, knowing it was a short run?
The car was so good from the drop of the green. I didn't make a single change to it all night long. I could roll that bottom better than anybody, especially after about 10 laps. That's where I was beating everybody. I could hold the throttle wide open center exit long into a run. So I figured Jeff would kind of be in the way once we got going. I just didn't want to get blocked behind him right there.
I'll tell you what, Blake and I up here were talking about the 2-tire stop he made, and we thought that was going to be money right there. I don't know if it was going to be the one for the win, but I thought you would kind of fight more than you did. And it kind of felt like a rock, but you had the track position, you had the tires, man. You get out there to a big lead, you take down yet another win, I believe. This is win number 6, but most importantly, man, looking ahead to the round of 8, you got yourself out of here. You don't have to worry about Talladega next week, of all things. That's going to make you feel a whole lot better.
Yeah. Talladega is not one of my favorite tracks. I think everybody knows that. I normally don't finish there, so I'm glad I got that win tonight. I kind of almost gave it away at the end, but especially the way I kind of dominated the whole race, I really didn't want to lose that. But I'm so glad I ain't got to mess with Talladega. I can just ride around, and it don't really matter. Kansas is pretty good for me too. The next set of tracks, I got good tracks too, so it's just avoiding being in a wreck at Talladega. That's all I'm worried about.
Yeah, it sets up really good for this guy to make a run at the championship. KJ, terrific job for you, man. Let me toss you the mic one more time. We've done this a few times before, and if I know any better, we're probably going to do it again. And I'm going to guess with no stress at Talladega, I know your luck there, just like mine, is no good, but with just going out there riding, we may do this again next week, bud, but we'll not think about next week yet. Let's celebrate this one, take the microphone away, and thank all the good folks out there to support you.
First off, I want to thank you guys in the booth, Full Velocity. I was kind of listening to it there. I had a lot of cautions there in the mid part of that race, but overall, I think it was a pretty good race. Want to thank the Rubinos of Hobo Racing for letting us race here. Also want to thank Brian Voiles and Voiles Trucking for sponsoring the race. I want to give a shout out to my teammates, and especially Danny. He couldn't race tonight, but he wanted to be here with us. And I also wanted to give a shout out to my wife again. Hopefully we can keep it going next week.
I like it. Always going to thank the women that make this thing possible. From BladeNo.com, Victory Lane, the 029 posing again. Kilojoules picking up yet another win, and is going to be a guy on a mission. Talladega not going to be so much stressful anymore, but he said Kansas setting up next. You look ahead to places like, ISM and to Phoenix and to, maybe the championship race at Homestead. These are all tracks that KJ is normally pretty dang good at. If I'm him right now, knowing I've got to check this one off my list, that unknown of Talladega kind of out of the way now, I'm feeling really good if I'm that car right now, if I'm KJ Blake. I think it sets up for him really good.
Absolutely, and you have to think no worrying about going to Talladega next week where we know anything can happen. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a full field here next week to battle around the Talladega Superspeedway. Anything can happen in a race like that, so very good for him that a guy like him is already locked in. He can go to Talladega and wreck him up with him next week. Nothing's going to happen to that car. He's locked into the round of 8, but for the rest of these guys, a lot at stake next week, and a lot of these guys that maybe think they don't have a chance to try and go to Kansas and be competitive and run in the round of 8, Talladega's their chance to try and make a statement, get some points, perhaps get a win. So very interested to see, and really can't wait for next week because it's going to be one hell of a race.
It really will, man. It's always good to have you out here, and Talladega is going to be fun. I'm glad you were out here for Dover tonight. I'm really thankful to Clifton Ashley that he came out to practice and didn't even start the race and kind of got us in, Blake. I think we kind of got lucky on that one. I don't think that was skill that helped us out.
No, but it's better to be lucky, I guess, than good anytime. So,
right. It's better to be late than pregnant, too. So at least you got here. We like that one. Thanks, Blake, for playing along. So glad he was here. Going to thank Jack Truin for all his help on the controls. Got to thank the Rubinos, of course, for having us over here as well. Brian and Kathy Voiles over at Voiles Trucking, our presenting sponsor. Of course, also got to thank the likes of Hanover Record Service and iRacing, iFlag, CCM Custom Designs and Engraving, BladeNo.com, South Texas Speedway, TDR Racing League, Hard Motorsports, Trash Panda Graphics, Eichstadt Wraps, and of course our buddy Brendan Spadafora over at Full Throttle with the Gent. For Jack Truin, Blake McCandless, Todd Stanton, Ron Piles, Martin Karch, the rest of the cast over here at the Full Velocity Racing Network. Phil LeCast going to sign off here, but we go back tomorrow at it live. Well, I know Todd will be there anyways. Dirt Warrior Racing League Wednesday night street fights rolls into Lanier tomorrow night. There's a race I don't want to miss. It's Lanier. Unfortunately, I will, but Todd and Jack and the gang, they will all be there live tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, everybody have a great and safe evening, and we will talk to you again later on this week on your source for esports racing. Good night, everybody.